determine a quorum based on our new number.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, Katie, for recording.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
Okay, very good. Approval of the minutes of the February 2023 meeting, which were distributed by the secretary afterwards. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mary, on to the treasurer's report.
Yes, well, it may be time to fire your treasurer. We began the month with a balance of $3,102.04, but we only accrued 2 cents of interest this month. So our new balance is $3,102.06.
No.
Yeah,
What
it's
happened
terrible.
What happened to the other penny? I thought it was 3 cents interest.
Well, the fun thing is that since our account has $205 less in it for this February than last February, with a 28-day interest cycle, that was just enough to lose us that penny. However, I have been talking with Truist, and one of the things that Rich suggested, so thank you, Rich, was we approached them about changing to a money market account.
Yep.
On which we can get 3% interest, which is rather more than the 0.01% that we've got here. So it is not something that would penalize us because you have up to 6 withdrawals in any interest earning period without any penalty. So going from the checking to a money market would seem to be a reasonable thing to do. And all it would take is the 2 signatories on the account, which would be Paul and me, going to the bank.
And we won't rob it when we go there.
No, we won't.
Hey, can I give you guys a note to give to a teller?
No, but thanks for the input, Scott. Thank you, Mary. Old
Welcome.
business. Docent Working Group. I'm going to throw this open to Steve Ruff, who wants to have some opening remarks about Docent Working Group.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for coming to the meeting. And what I'd like to do is answer a couple of points that came up in the Docent Working Group and also its purpose and where we're going with it. Basically, the group it consists of the Docent Council officers and the Training Committee Chair, Les Graham, and the Tour Committee Chair, John Handy. We met last month, and it was a presentation by Al that described what the docents did pre-COVID, and that was very helpful and gave a context to where the docents are coming from. So basically what we're going to use the working group for, as I laid out briefly in the meeting last month, we're going to use it to provide docents with an opportunity to communicate their concerns and facilitate a mutual understanding of where the docents are and where VS is, and come up with the rewrite of the docent program directive to include the changes in the program since the last version, which was 3.5 years ago, and then with the recent additions to the program that we're doing. So that's the purpose. And the next meeting we haven't set yet, but it certainly will progress from the start we had, and we have some announcements that'll come through the rest of the meeting today that will affect it a little bit. But basically what we're going to do is be on track to try and meet once a month if we can, and then allow you guys to communicate with us and back and forth and to rewrite and approve the new directive with the descriptions of all the components in it, some of which have changed. So that's basically the purpose of the Docent Working Group, and to allow you guys to make comments and forward those and to make proposed changes and send them up to us, and we'll get our supervisors and leadership to review those and get back to you, or and proceed from there. You also, I think there was the question about the purpose of the changes we're making. Is that the next item, Paul? I don't recall. Or it's included?
We don't have to do that right now, Steve. Let's hold that for a second.
Okay.
For the larger audience, the goal of the docent working group is to get us every other in between the meetings of the docent council. We have a chance to interface very closely with Steve and Katie, and also I meet with Rose on a routine basis as well. So we are having interactions with them consistently that give us the opportunity to voice where the direction we think the docents need to go and what help we need from leadership to get there. And so we'll continue to meet in between the docent council meetings. Getting the docent program directive finalized and approved by the director is a top priority, so that we actually have in writing exactly what the visitor services and the docents understand is the way ahead. Public tours at UHC. For those of you who are UHC docents, obviously public tours have started. Visitor services continues to adjust the schedule. We continue to ask them for changes. You've seen the latest one where visitor services only allows docents who are assigned to a particular day scheduled tours for that day for the first week that the tours are posted. They do want people to have the opportunity to go on other days. I think there's some benefit in that. My recommendation to them is the way to do that is to have you coordinate with the docent lead of that particular day, so you know that they indeed are need to have help available, or when they need to have help available, because there are some days that are reasonably short on personnel. But we'll continue to work forward through that. I think the people who have done public tours, and we'll get to the rubrics here in a second, have think it's beneficial. That obviously the visitors like it. If you're downtown as an ambassador, if you're downtown as a blue vester, you realize that the number one question after where are the bathrooms is, how can I get a tour? And right now we can't do that, but we are approaching that, and we'll have some announcements later in the meeting. So that leads us to NMB. So Steve or Katie, let's talk about NMB. And by the way, if anyone has a question as we go along here, please use the raise hand function, and we'll try to spot you on the screen with your raised hand function. But there's two screens worth of people because we're doing it at the evening. So if we don't get to you, just speak out politely. Steve and Katie, can you talk about anything progress-wise at NMB?
Right, Katie.
Everybody, one note with Javi, I do want to thank all of you for your submitting your rubrics. We've really enjoyed them and getting to learn what you want to include in tours. We have over 80 docents cleared now, and only about 30 in the queue that I'm working on getting through those emails, making sure we have all those training requirements up to date. As for the National Mall building, I have Jeremy scheduled for the end of the month to record, and then April, May, we're working to get the rest of the curators recorded. We are hoping, trying to have a goal of within 60 days of recording, we can get, the training out. But Jeremy, Beth, and I also came up with an additional spotlight opportunity that will not require the video to go through, and it will be the commons objects that are in the hallways and in the entryway. Some great objects for the Spirit of St. Louis, the Enterprise, Jackie Cochran's plane. There's some really great objects there that aren't tied to an exhibit. So I'll be meeting with the curators to create that training so that will happen faster, so that we can start spotlighting faster and have docenting in the museum. And then we'll progress with First Nation Speed and Wright Brothers, and then the other 6. But our goal is to get you back in the building doing what you love most, which is talk about our great objects. So that is our happy, it was just an organic conversation where we were talking about these objects, and then Jeremy gave the approval. So I'm really excited that we get this extra spotlight opportunity.
And Katie, how long do you think it will take to have that opportunity available?
I need to meet with the curators first to get their sense of what they want to provide, but that one I hope to have sooner. I can't give a time frame yet. I don't know what the curators are thinking yet, But once I do, I will hopefully be able to report that out in the next docent council meeting next month.
Okay, or maybe even to the docent working group before that.
Exactly. And then, having, emailing everyone out of here's the plan, here's the time frame, here's the trainings. Most of y'all, especially with the HASI highlights, y'all will be good on training.
Okay, thank you, Katie. The rest of the spotlights seem to still require the videos that are being produced. Any idea how fast you can get Right Gallery and Nation of Speed? Right Gallery seems to be the lead horse in this.
It's Right and Nation of Speed.
And when do you think we can get Peter Jacobs, since he recorded in December, available for docent training and get us into?
So Jeremy's going to be the first one just because he is head of curation. So he'll be the first one to run the trainings with us. He wants to set the example.
Okay.
Where's the briefer?
Do we have a timeline for the rest of the videos? I know you said 60 days from recording, but based on Peter Jacobs' example, can you sort of narrow that down for us? Are we talking 3 months? Are we talking 6 months?
So it's going to be, Peter Jacobs is the one that it went too long. So we are taking preventative steps to make sure the scripts for the next 7 scripts are not as long and do not face this issue of having to get the cuts. So that it can go straight into production and not have to wait on getting curator to cut it and reapprove the script.
Okay. And to just to reiterate to the docents, as currently scheduled, there will be no highlights public tours at NMB until all the galleries have been, we've seen the videos and training on every single gallery? Or are we going to be able to open public highlight tours to 4 galleries if we have 4 galleries available in June, for example?
Right now, our first step is figuring out spotlights. It's one since crowds is our biggest issue. So once we have you on spotlighting, we'll be evaluating from there. But we just don't have a yet time frame for spotlight for doing highlight tours.
Okay, I do see Joe Ramito's hand up. So Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, my question, Katie, is this: in your discussions with the curators, has anybody ever posed the following question or gotten close to it? The curators some time ago gave us their narratives on what each gallery was about, going into great detail about what the major points are, the themes, the major artifacts. We have what amounts to not necessarily a script, but we have a very thorough story on what each of those new galleries is about. So my question would be, and I'm wondering if anybody asked it, why can't the docents use that material as a foundation and start giving highlights tours or spotlight tours now? Why do we have to wait for training that is taking months to produce?
Thank you, Joe. It's one of these things, this was the restriction I was given, was that we were not allowed to start docent programming until we had these videos.
Is that coming from the curators or from VS?
That's coming from Jeremy and Beth. So the head of visitor services / education and the head of curation, that was their restriction.
Okay, and just to flesh that out, was it pointed out to them that we already have the narratives from the curators? Was that fact pointed out to them?
They are aware.
Okay, thanks, Joe. I see Vince's hand up and I see Bill Hagen applauding. So we'll go to Bill after Vince.
Oh, ha. Where's the hand? Oh, there's the hand.
Go ahead, Vince.
Okay, well, the question I had was, it seems unlikely that you can really do much in Nation of Speed. It's generally so noisy in there that talking is even difficult. Can we is Jeremy insisting on that being the first of the trainings? It seems like having another gallery that's a little more conducive to talking to visitors in would be more beneficial to get something going sooner. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. And that's a great point. Maybe not maybe, I will talk to Jeremy about the fact the noise will make it difficult. Maybe we can adjust the sound. We also have new amplifiers for the docent program. So those will also help. And I think it will definitely be brainstorming which spots are better for being able to be better heard in the exhibit. And that goes for all of them because it just, with the limited space, it gets very noisy very quickly. So we are just navigating new things and going into the spring crowds. It stays pretty full in the buildings most of the day.
Yeah, I mean, Nation of Speed is just, whatever you think about the gallery, even being in the Air and Space Museum, it's a very difficult gallery to talk to more than a couple of people in because, there's roaring engines and whatever in there. So it would be helpful if, it doesn't seem like we're going to get much of a spotlight in there. But so if we could maybe put priority on another gallery, that'd be better. Appreciate you bringing that up with you.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Okay, Bill.
I gonna ask a question. We have fantastic stuff in the DG, and I think almost every artifact is in there. Why can't they use that until we can get the curators? Because the curators are historically terribly slow in responding. I mean, months go by from past experience. Can't we just use the DG? You got all the artifacts.
Katie, you want to just repeat the guidance that you've been given?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Bill. I'm going with what restrictions my direct supervisors have given me.
Are they aware of how good the DGs are?
They are aware and they are really grateful for this resource. I have to do what the head of the departments are doing because they are my direct supervisors.
Okay, see no other hands raised at this time, so I will move on to VS updates from Steve and Katie. Katie, if I know you mentioned before, would you just talk about the status of pending rubrics to your timeline with Steve to get the remaining rubrics out and how you are notifying docents that they have their rubric completed, but they may need other training and things like that?
Yeah, so we have over 80 docents cleared. I have about 30 in the queue right now where I've emailed everyone who has submitted it and now going through and both, tomorrow and Saturday, going through and making sure any emails where you've sent back your certificates. If you have not heard anything, you feel free to email us again. It's been, as one docent put, the tsunami of emails. I've had over 300 emails in the past month just about this. So it's definitely just making sure, it doesn't get lost in the queue. I want to make sure of that. But I do keep notes of when I've emailed you. So please send it my way. But for the most part, protection of minors, I know that's the biggest one because it used to be every 3 years, but this past year they've updated the requirement to be every year. So if your expiration date says 2025, that no longer counts. You have to do the new version. They've updated the whole training. So it's, I've heard a lot of compliments. I mean, it's not the most fun training to take. No one enjoys taking protection of minors, but it is an important training to take to make sure we do take care of our youngest visitors. So that is probably one of the biggest ones. And then if you have a Smithsonian account and have to take CSAT, we do not see that certificate. We only see it if you take the ISAT on Visas. And that's just because Visas doesn't talk to the systems the same way. That's the one perk of not requiring all the volunteers to have Smithsonian accounts. You don't have to go through the every 6 weeks having to get your password changed and all the extra training requirements we have, but it also means that we have to manually add in your CSAT and Moodle trainings into Visas. Those are the two biggest ones.
Okay, Katie, thank you. Frank Van Hast has his hand up. So Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to, looking ahead, I'm an NMB oriented person, and looking ahead, I have to assume that the NMB docents for both spotlights, probably for both spotlights and highlight tours, will also have a rubric requirement. And can we anticipate mall building specific guidance for the preparation of rubrics? And can we anticipate that being provided at an early date so that we can hit the ground running when trainings actually become available? Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, for that idea. I'll definitely, that's my next step, is getting an NMB training. So I will definitely think about how we can incorporate your suggestions. So thank you.
Yeah, it would be terrific to do that earliest possible so that we're not thrashing around getting rubrics approved at a time when we could actually be interacting with visitors and giving spotlights and highlights. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, and I highly recommend, check your ISAT, CSAT, your protection of minors. I will say, going through all the trainings, a bunch of you have your workplace harassment training. It's every 3 years. It's expiring for a lot of people in the next couple of months, so keep an eye on that one as well.
That can be found. That can be found in Visas.
Yeah, that one can be found in Visas.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank. That's a great idea to both ease the burden on the downtown docents and ease the burden on the visitor services staff to get the rubrics approved. Steve Matthews has his hand up. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, I was just wondering if dual docents who have had a rubric approved at HASI, will they need to do another rubric for downtown, or is the rubric from HASI applicable in both locations?
This is brand new, so I can't. 2 minutes ago is when this discussion got brought up about having it prepared, so I don't have an answer for you at this moment. I will say that the rubrics for HASI are specific to HASI in the fact of, we don't have the discovery at the mall building. It won't fit. But we, I think we do need to think about how we modify it for modifying it for the spotlights at the National Mall building. But there will definitely be, things like making sure we do have those more inclusive stories. So definitely, think about how you can include, those inclusive stories within your narrative. I think Paul's audio went out.
I apologize. We just had a power surge here and I fell off the Zoom call. So last I heard was Steve Matthews finishing his comments. Katie, can you catch me up?
So the HASI rubric will not be, I can't copy and paste it because we don't have the big five at the mall building, but definitely thinking about those inclusive stories that you will have at the mall building, that type of element will transfer over, but the big five won't. We can't fit them through the door.
Yeah, obviously. Okay, what I'd like to do, and when we get to training, Les, if you'd bring this up again, is allow the training committee to help you set up the docent, setting up the rubrics downtown, so we give you a little bit of input there. We talked about we talked in the last docent council meeting about potentially doing spotlights in 3 galleries. I think the way we're going to approach that is going to be the commons areas, and let's get the commons areas started as soon as possible. Al has his hand up, so Al, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question, Katie, for the minutes. Did you say that you have sent an email to everybody who has submitted a rubric?
Yes. And I know what date it is. Definitely check your junk folders. I use the email address that's on your Visas account. So it may, if you usually check your Smithsonian email, check the, your Gmail instead, because I send it to all of those. And I'm now going through the process. The people I haven't heard back from, that'll be tomorrow and Saturday of, hey, I emailed you this. Are you okay? Did you send it?
Okay, I'll have to follow up with you separately.
Yep.
And the lesson for the docent leads is if someone in your team says, I haven't heard back from them, have them retouch with Katie and Steve and make sure that the connection is being made there.
Yeah, I know I had 2 docents for their emails got hidden in my junk folder. So I found those. But if for some reason you did not get my email, I know junk folders are the worst at hiding emails. So feel free to, even talk to one of the visitor services coordinators of the day and say, hey, could you please pass this along to Katie? Just if email's being stubborn, and I can check and I'll email you directly. Luckily, we have we are fully staffed, and the whole team, they'll pass it along to me and Steve.
Katie, can you talk about the next mandatory training, the previous mandatory training, and when we're going to be able to see the civility training, which was recorded? So
our next mandatory trainings are going to be about, first, for those who were not able to attend the implicit bias training that was in January, our next session will be on Saturday, March 18th at 11 a.m. This is to allow those of you who work Monday through Friday jobs and couldn't attend those during the week of trainings, it'll give you an opportunity to watch it on the weekend. It is not, because it is through contracted through the right to be, we can't record it, so we do need you to attend live. That's the next training for that one. Civility, which is a separate one through Smithsonian. We did have 2 sessions, both were recorded, and I'm working on getting those processed so that they can be in next week's communique. So Steve's going to post them there. Then our next group of trainings are going to be through Smithsonian Access about accessibility, verbal description, and sighted guide for our visitors who may be have low vision or who are blind, and really making sure that we are providing, great experiences for visitors of all abilities.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Can you talk about the lack of an 11 o'clock tour because of school tours, and have we made some progress along there?
Yes. So thank you all for those who have signed up for school tours. March is definitely filling up, and we really do appreciate all of your support helping the Tours and Reservations Office. We are going to for communication, especially because the communique is only every other week, we are going to add into the Friday flyby. So be surprised tomorrow when you see it, a chart of what the upcoming tours are for the next 2 weeks, of what vacancies there are and where we need slots, just so that you can, at a snapshot, see where our needs are and, really help us. Alora and Abby are still working with the day leads to try to get people in, but that also is just another resource to help make sure that we can support as many of these great tours as possible.
Now, the goal of this is to make sure that many of the docents who do, at least at HASI, do school tours are less VSIS aware. And so this is an opportunity for them to know where to look, as opposed to having to try to sort through VSIS and do all the different sorts that you have to do to try to find available ones. I've got Rich McKinney and then John Haney. So go ahead, Rich.
Thanks, Paul. Quick question, Katie. Will the civility training be posted on our training block in VSIS eventually?
Not in VSIS. It will be a YouTube recording to watch. So we'll just have a little URL link for you to watch it.
No. I meant after we've taken it, will it be recorded?
Oh, yes. Great question, Rich. Yes. So what we're going to do is I will manually add it to your record. Okay.
I saw the bias was there, but I haven't seen the civility yet. So I was just checking to see.
Yes. I think I'm halfway through one. I've completed one list, and the other one I'm halfway through because that one had over 200 attendees, which was great, but also meant it took me a while to get through.
Okay, I was on the first one, so
yeah, it's the first one. We have over 200 attendees.
Oh, great. That's the one that was so
yes.
big. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Rich. John Handy.
Yeah, and Katie, when you send that school tour list out with the Friday flyby, can you please make sure it can be opened? A lot of times when it comes, it's a PDF and it doesn't have a file extension. And if you slap a file extension on it, you can open it. But I think a lot of the docents don't know how to do that. Wow. So if they could just check it out before they attach it and make sure it opens, it would be a really good idea.
Thank you, John. Well, that is a great idea. And Alora happened to be on the same track. It's going to be a chart within the Friday flyby. Okay. So you can just read it. No attachments needed because it's in the document.
Good.
And that will also copy into the communique. It'll be the same chart. So every other week you have it in the communique, but every week you'll have it in the Friday flyby. But it will just be a basic chart that says this date, school group, this many docents needed. So less complicated, easier to read.
Okay, thanks, Katie. And I think this is will really help us support the school tours and youth tours as much as we can.
And then you don't have to navigate through VSIS. It's just so you can just check on Fridays and see what is our needs for the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Steve Ruff, you want to talk about the Brewer Trophy?
Okay, basically I did get an update from the curator of awards and trophies, Carolyn Russo, who basically indicated they have a Brewer Trophy in storage at the moment that belongs in the NASM collection. It is in the NASM collection. The Brewer Trophy that the NASM docents achieved and won in 2005 is not acquired or not accessed into the museum's official collection. So she said that as of now, she would not like anything that's not an accession collection item put on the floor for display. However, I'm going to counter propose that since the other item that is a collection brewer trophy item in the national collection is in storage for who knows how long, I think it's going to go in the mall building eventually, that we can use this one to display on the floor. So that proposal hasn't been submitted yet. I just got her answer before I left day before yesterday, so I'll pursue that. So that's where it stands now.
So the goal here is to take have the trophy that we have currently in the UHC lounge and have it on display someplace in UHC. And the actual trophy itself that is assessed will be on display at some point in NMB when the final transformation is completed.
Yeah, and that's the idea is that I'm going to propose it since the other one is in storage and not usable at all, that we display this one. But it's a curatorial decision, so I'll try and convince her that it's beneficial to the museum. So I'll do my best.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Joe Romito, you had your hand up for a second and you took it back down again. Was that a typo?
No, you answered my question. Thanks, Paul.
Great. Thanks, Joe. I have a replacement docent council auditor. It's someone who had served as treasurer a decade or half or so ago. I am actually still looking for someone. My goal for docent leads is someone in the 2019 class who would like to get more engaged in the docent program. You don't have to be a bank president. Quite honestly, if you probably ran your pool's treasury or your homeowner association, or even if you've talked to Mary Dominiak, you can probably be fully qualified to audit the books there. It's not extensive. So please ask around and see if someone's interested in getting engaged on doing that. We are also had a number of docent leads who have retired, have formally notified visitor services and myself. And so we are going to continue to look for leads off the top of my head. That's Van Remetta, Paul Stone, and I'm missing one, Katie and Steve. Steve, you're muted.
Bill Causey.
Bill Cosby.
Bill Causey, thank you. So we'll be looking for docent leads in either from their groups, if there's someone who wants to step up in their group, or if someone wants to become a docent lead and transition to a different day within their museum, or a different museum will accept any and all volunteers for doing that. Docent council meetings in the evenings. This is our second one. I've gotten rave reviews from lots of people. Vince Massimini said it's the best thing that's ever happened in the docents in the time that he's been serving as a docent. I'll take that as personal credit, but we're going to continue to do them in the evenings. The plan right now is to do it on the second Thursday. That seems to work well for most people. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but Mondays during the day didn't work for everybody either.
Just
So we'll
don't get a big head, okay?
Oh yeah, no, I'll try. I'll try not to, Vince. You will keep me in line, I'm sure. Targeting the second Thursday of every month. I think Al, that'll take us to the 9th of April, which will be it'll be the Thursday after Easter Sunday, if I've got my calendar right. But you will see it formally notified when we send out the minutes of this meeting as to when we will do that. Docent exchange side, Steve Reynolds and Steve Ruff.
Yeah, since the last council meeting, Katie and Steve and I met February 22nd to discuss our participation on the panel at the side workshop. And that was followed by just last Tuesday, the 6th of March, we had our side meeting where they clarified a lot more about how that workshop is going to run. So you can expect an update coming out in the next communique with more details about that side workshop. What I can tell you right now is, let's see, it will be both virtual and in person. So you can either observe, participate by Zoom, or in person will be held at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. It'll start at a sort of meet and greet and chat at about 9 o'clock, 9:30. The formal presentations will start with a little introduction and then a panel discussion. The folks on the panel will be from Smithsonian American Art Museum, Jeff Coors and Pat Greenfield, and they'll be talking about how they're planning their next docent recruiting effort. Then Steve Ruff and I'll talk about what we did and planned and how it turned out with our last docent class, the class of 2019. And that'll take, about 20, 30 minutes for each of those two presentations, and then a Q&A session. And then it'll all wrap up around 11:30. So more details to follow. Any questions, Steve? Do you have any additional input, suggestions, comments?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Basically, I'm putting together with you an assessment of how the diversity of the docent corps will be has done so far, as particularly with the 2019-20 class. That was the effort that we really pushed to get more diversity in the corps, and the reflection of how that turned out, and then how we're planning for the future. So I appreciate you getting started on the slides, and that's what I'd like to catch up with you after I return from this trip. So sometime next week. And Katie had some information too, that the diversity in the thesis is not reflected, not able to be accessed as ethnic or cultural diversity. So I apologize for the disturbances here. Hold on one second.
Yeah, a real glitch in what I had anticipated was being able to pull out some diversity statistics from Visas based on the voluntary forms that all staff and volunteers are requested to fill out, identifying their ethnicity and gender and so forth. And I don't know why that's not in Visas, but apparently it's not. Katie has said she couldn't pull any of that information out for me. So there, we won't have a lot of hard and fast statistics, but I do have the observational statistics that I developed while we were running that development and interviews and selection of the new docent class. So I'll have to put together whatever I can from that.
Okay, thanks, Steve, and Steve, both Steve Ree and Steve Rue. I don't see Joe Polito on the call. Joe, are you here and hiding under a different rubric? Okay, we'll skip the recognition of the 2003 UHC class. We are coming up, as you know, in December on the 20th anniversary of that, and we're looking, Joe Polito has been able to pull together who were all members of that class, and we're looking for some form of recognition. We'll table that for the next meeting, Al. Committee chairs, we'll start with training. Les Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Not necessarily training, but the discussion about rubrics for the mall building. I think it's getting started in advance is a great idea. Thanks, Frank Van Haast. And I'm going to interpret my charter very broadly here and ask for volunteers to maybe start doing a little framework that we can help the mall building docents to be able to respond in a substantive way to preparing their rubrics. And doing that way, I know we can use the docent guides. So if any of you online here would like to help me with that, and Frank Van Haast, I'm hoping you will be one of those who want to help. I'm going to go ahead and get started on that, even though we don't have very many details about how that will work. So that's new, and that's just what I've thought of while watching this, accompanied by my glass of Pinot Grigio. So on the training front, we don't really have any training initiatives underway, and you know, there's a reason for that. But what I would like to do just here at a brief statement is for the record, and to remind our friends in visitor services that the docent cadre has is really got a deep bench in terms of skills, experience, knowledge about all of the things that go on in the museum and the artifacts. And we can provide training, and we have done training in the past. So I would just ask the visitor services. I have been on the call since the beginning, and I am aware of what Katie said with regard to the guidance she has received from her superiors. I understand and appreciate that, but don't forget, we're capable and ready and willing to help. And I think there is an opportunity and maybe a need for that. Secondarily, on a more specific note with regard to the training at the mall building, the curator narratives that have already been mentioned so far, and the gallery layouts, couple of comments have already floated on this, but my group from the mall building, we call ourselves the Friday Flyers, includes Ernie Snowden and Joe Polito. We have prepared, basically with their effort, what I think are some very good outlines regarding the 8 galleries that are open at the mall building. We haven't been able to do those and provide those openly as part of the formal training process, but I would remind again that we can do that, and I would remind visitor services that the very curator narratives that have been discussed, the gallery layouts, the reasons that the curators have selected certain artifacts and what the curators want us to share with visitors are all included in our little presentations on each gallery. And I think it could be of benefit. And again, I'm saying this having heard and understood what Katie just gave us on that briefing. So bottom line, from the training committee, we don't have anything cooking right now, but we have some abilities drawing on the Docent cadre resources. And don't forget, we're here because we'd like to help, and I think we could make this thing go more smoothly. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Les. Katie and Steve, when the rubric format, the original one, was sent out, was it only sent to UHC docents?
That's correct.
Okay, can you regenerate that and send it to all the docent leads as a reminder for the UHC leads, but for the NMB leads, so they now have it in hand, and the NMB leads can help Les help put together some things to help you guys out.
That's a great idea. No, thank you, Paul. That's a great idea to get started with designing one for them all.
Yeah, we'd like to be part of that plan.
Right. Thank
Well,
you.
we can talk about that next week. Steve's technically out of office.
I'm out of town right now.
So yeah, Steve, while is here, for this meeting, is not working for the end of the week. So we can bring up this discussion.
We'll reconvene, yeah, and we'll certainly let you know, Paul, but I'm sort of indisposed for the next 5 days.
Okay. Do you want to tell us where you are? But you don't have to. No, just keep it to yourself.
No, I'm
tours.
in New York. I'm in where I used to live in Westchester County, City of Yonkers, New York right now.
Okay.
In the building that I used to live in, and I'm renting an apartment here, and I have to clean it out and get it ready for a new renter.
Okay. Very good.
And it's right along the Hudson River out the window, but you can't see it. So I'll certainly be happy to share pictures and, relay anything I can.
Excellent. We're looking forward to that. John Handy, Tours Committee.
Before I start, does anybody know where I can get an apartment in New York? Okay, so tour committee.
Walk up.
Yeah, that's right. The tours
I
committee.
think I can help you.
What we've been trying to do is to look at whether we can develop standard tours. We're in pretty good shape with the HASI, and as we've been hearing several times over and over again today, it's probably way premature to do that for the mall building. So what we focused on was reserve tours, and as I've said in previous meetings, we have a really varied list of different tour topics for reserve tours downtown and at HASI. So we're trying to see whether we can standardize. I've had a couple meetings with Alora and Katie Our next step is going to be to meet with the education office, and I don't think we've gotten very far on that. Katie, unless you have any further update on that, we're still waiting for that meeting.
I'll talk to Laura tomorrow. See,
Okay.
yeah, tomorrow I'll talk to her, see if we can get
All
them
right.
on the book soon.
Van Romana has tried to push us in a new direction too, which I have not done much with so far, and that is to try to address the issue of how to encourage greater participation in student tours. So he's done a very nice little thought piece on that. I have not shared it with the tour committee members yet, but we're going to try to see whether we can't chat that one out as well. And that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, John. Joe Romito, Docent Guides.
Nothing new from me, Paul.
Okay, thanks. Paper Airplane, the Steves.
Thank you. We have a March edition, which I think I sent to Steve. I see Steve's got it. So that should be out in March. I'll give you 2 teasers for it. We have an article by Jack Breedlove called Sea to Stars, the Director Cut. An earlier edition omitted there was a technical glitch. Jack didn't admit it. Some pages got dropped. So we're going to tell you the full story of the Navy's contribution to American spaceflight. And I highly recommend that our Air Force related docents read it, become very agitated, and volunteer to do an equivalent compendium for Air Force contributions to the American space effort. It really is a dynamite resource. And I encourage everyone to take a look at it. We have Doug Norton did an article on the German bombers, long-range bombers that were under development at the end of World War I. It's fascinating and kind of horrifying, and thank God the war ended when it did. But it is very interesting, and they built some very innovative / strange prototypes. But 30 years later, they picked up the interest and continued again. I'll just give you a tease on this one. We have a link in one of the articles to what may be the greatest moment in the history of American television game shows. And the star of this segment is Neil Armstrong's mother. And I can't give you any further explanation because you would not believe it unless you see it. So I encourage you to see it, to read it at least. Finally, we're still looking for writers. I'd ask the docent leads to encourage their people to pick something that they find of interest and help share it with other docents, particularly for the docents who are in NMB and looking to keep their communication skills sharp. We operate under the precept that if it's of interest to one docent, it's probably of interest to many docents. And we encourage you to join us. We have no standards except that it has to be accurate and true. So that's it. We have a couple of ideas for the next issue, and we'll probably be bothering some of your people to make some contributions to it. But look for it at a newsstand near you.
Okay, perfect. Bother away, Steve. The Paper Airplane is the unsung hero of the background information that we get every month. So everyone's got an idea in their head. Just write it down. Give these guys a chance to make you look really good in writing.
Yeah, the notice coming out with the publication will give us our email address. And you're right. Just send us an idea that you think would be of interest, and we'll help you nurture it into a Pulitzer Prize winning quality article.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. Library, Les Smith.
Hi, from an action item that was assigned in February's council meeting by you, Paul. Mike Lowe and I are ready to meet to nail down a process for using VSys to allow volunteers back into the NMB library. Ball's in the court for Steve and Katie. There have been a couple of emails to them letting them know that we're eager and ready. So that's it. Okay,
Steve and Katie, we'll let you keep that as an action item. To the discussion previously, for those who weren't familiar, was that there would be a VSys volunteer opportunity for NMB library, and it would be limited to whatever the appropriate number of people is, because if you don't know, if you volunteer at NMB in some form, security has a list of all the people who volunteered. So if I just walked in with my badge tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, they'd say, hey, excuse me, but you are not on the list. So we do need people on the list. We do need to account for the fact that people are in NMB, and we do need to get the folks into the library so we can get that in as good shape as we can make it. IT, Lee Holcomb.
We have no updates to offer at this time. But I will pile on to the last comment on paper airplane and remind Steve and Katie that most of the docents, or many of the docents, personally were involved in the development, deployment, and flying and operation of the artifacts that we talk about. And if there's any source of information that's going to put together a quality tour, we are the force that should be reached out to and involved in that process. So I'm kind of piling on to what others have said, but I don't want this to be lost in the noise. So leave it as it may be.
Thanks, Lee. And as an offshoot of IT, it might be because Chris promised us this. There was some talk about re-recording the 5-minute and 10-minute tour announcements at UHC so that they were more clearly said. Steve Ruff, you were on it. Okay.
Yes, I'm pursuing that when I return, but basically Chris McClary did agree to allow another professional voice to be able to re-record it. And the voice that you all are familiar with is the IMAX announcer, and whose voice projects all over the museum, as you may well know. So if you have another idea, I proposed him, and Chris agreed that he could be recorded. It has to be someone who can give us his permission to have that voice recorded, as the previous person did. But his projects, I believe, in a more clear and effective manner. If you have any other ideas, please send them on.
I think that's a great idea for all of us who have given public highlight tours or any kind of tour at UHC. When that IMAX thing comes on, you got to stop talking for the 30 seconds that it goes on. So if we can get that recording for the 10-minute and 5-minute prior to a public tour, that would be great.
Right, I'll work on that when I return. Can I do a quick follow to what Lee said?
Yes, absolutely.
I really believe that you guys have so much expertise, and certainly the experiences in flight and many other areas that have contributed to pioneering aviation and space technologies and programs, that you could contribute to the paper airplane. And also anything you want to put in the communique, I am completely open to do that. And anything else you'd like to forward to our communications department for publishing, or perhaps a proposal to put in our publications, I think it's a great idea. So, and they're looking for new ideas too for Air and Space Quarterly. So please feel free to send that along. And I know we've been busy with rubrics, but it is a passion of mine to make sure that your voices are heard, and that the experiences, the very unique stories that you guys bring to the fore, can be communicated to visitors, members, staff, anybody who reads those publications, including the paper airplane, which I enjoy. So thanks.
Okay, Steve, thanks, and good luck readying your apartment for re-rental. That concludes our old business. If you have new business, we'll have you raise your hand. Before I go to the new business, and John, I see your hand up. Maggie, do you want to say hello to everybody? Maggie Siegel is on the call, and Maggie is one of our brand new visitor services, if I'm not mistaken.
Hi, thanks so much. Yeah, my name's Maggie Siegel. I'm brand new. This is my second week, and I'm joining the team as a visitor services supervisor coming from the National Postal Museum, where I ran the docent program and the visitor services program there. And I'm really excited to be on board. I've been on 3 tours now. I've enjoyed all of them. I'm looking forward to going on even more and just getting to know everybody here and learning about the program. So thank you very much for welcoming me.
Excuse me, Maggie, turn your camera on so we can see what you look like, please.
I'm afraid I'm not in a good my work desk tonight, but thank you. I'll meet you all soon.
Okay, Maggie, looking forward to it. Thank you very much. And
Turn your camera off, please.
Welcome to the team.
And we'll also be updating the Meet Your Coordinator document, so we can have Maggie have a more photo ready image on that for you.
Perfect. Maggie, thank you. Welcome to the team. John Handy, you got your hands up, and then we'll go
I just
to.
have a question for Katie. When we were talking about the National Mall building and the noise, you said something about new amplifiers. Could you expound on that a little bit, please?
The voice amplifiers that you use for tours, the ones that were kind of blocky, we got newer ones for the mall building, just because the ones at the mall building were a little beat up. So we
Okay, so
got some new ones.
just the mall building, not Hazy, right?
Don't worry, I'm working on that part.
Okay, are these to be shared microphone ones again?
Yeah, they're communal microphones. I'm
Okay.
also working hopefully on getting some assisted listening devices for both buildings so that visitors who do have hearing difficulties, you know, we're popular. People love seeing us, but that makes it loud. So having it where they have it directly what you're saying goes into their ears, so they don't have to struggle and they don't have to be 6 inches from you to be able to hear. So
Okay.
working
Thank
on
you.
making, you know, all ways of hearing that much better for everybody.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Joe Romito has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. This is a small request. Katie, you said that you're going to put up and meet your coordinators document, an updated version of that. And that's great because there's so many new folks. Kind of related to that, if you guys do an organizational chart that shows sort of a wiring diagram of who works for who in VS, I know that document exists somewhere, but I don't know if it's been updated recently. It would help us to know, you know, who works for who and who's got what responsibilities, because there are so many new people in VS. I've lost track, and it would be nice to know that. So if you can do that wiring diagram in addition to the meet your coordinators, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. It's a great idea. I'll pass that along. Shelby's been our great designer on the Meet Your Coordinator document. I'm not writing it out at the moment. I'm just going to verbally explain. It's Rose Beth is the boss of our department. Then it's Rose. Then Ryan and Maggie are the supervisors. They're the next level. Ryan is focused more on the mall building. Maggie will be more focused on Hazy. And then the rest of us are all underneath them. And we've kind of been split into having a main museum, which is basically where our desk is, but we are at both buildings. We're a part of both buildings. We are one museum. We just happen to have two buildings. So we have a place where our desk is.
Yeah, but for those of you who are, that's helpful, by the way, but for those of you who are sort of that massive helpful people at the so-called bottom, there's 2 docent coordinators, 2 TNR people, and everybody else is just a visitor services supervisor, right?
So yeah, two docent coordinators, Steve and myself. There's 2 tours and reservation coordinators. That's Abby and Alora. There's 2 lead visitor services coordinators. That's Carl and Antoine. And then we have 3 visitor services coordinators. That's Shelby, Lillian, and Larissa.
Okay, thank you.
Katie or Steve, if we could add that to the communique at some point as one of the attachments saying, you know, meet your latest team now that Maggie's on board. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are as full up as you're going to be for a while from a hiring standpoint, or are we still looking to fill another slot?
As far as I know, we're full.
We're full, yeah. With Maggie's position being acquired, that completes our staff for now.
Yep. Good. Okay. We have reached the 8 o'clock hour. That doesn't mean we have to stop, but we probably should. I'm looking for any hands for any more new business. Steve Ruff.
May I offer something? I had a disturbance here. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions or anything you needed from me.
I think we're 100%. There is a word in the chat that Aaron Rodgers is looking for an apartment, and perhaps if you can clean yours up fast enough, there'd be an opportunity there. But
I'd love to meet him and get an autograph.
He could probably buy the building, Steve.
Joe Romito, you've got your hand up for new business.
Yeah, just a question about maybe it's the next paragraph, but the next meeting that you had said it would be April 9th. I think the second Thursday is the 13th.
Okay, I didn't. Yeah, it quite possibly is. I didn't have my calendar in front of me, so it will be the second Thursday. I believe that is after Easter, but if not, we'll adjust appropriately for people's holiday travels.
I would just comment, April 9th is my birthday and it's a Sunday.
Maybe that's Easter Sunday. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
It is Easter Sunday.
So you'll be 39, Lee?
77.
Okay, but who's counting? You're still playing tennis. Okay. Last call for hands up. Joe, you didn't take yours back down again. I assume you're fully accomplished with what you want to say. Do I have anyone to suggest that we should motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Let's go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Have a good
Take
evening.
care, everyone.
So
See you when
long.
I get back.
Have fun, Steve.
Thanks, Scott.